Okay, guys, welcome to the video.
We're here with all the main boys, all the important ones.
Got rid of the exchange.
Abe, that's
What do you
the
mean,
dumbest
you
thing
dickhead?
I've
What are you
ever
doing?
heard.
That's such a stupid idea. Like, what are you thinking?
You're banned. Joel recently watched the last Harry Potter movie video and said it was the worst thing he ever heard. Rather than redoing it, we'll do movies and books. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
I'm going to put it just in acceptable, just as a benchmark. I might move it around later.
I won't exceed expectations.
Great commentary here from Pat. To me, it's a book that really feels like the first book of a series, like where the author's still trying to figure out where she's going, what the mood is, what the atmosphere is. But I also have to give it more credit because it's what started everything. You know, people read this and they're like, okay, I'm in. I'll read more of what this series has to offer. And so for that, I'm going to put it in exceeds expectations.
I don't, my stance from memory is very much a first book. It's very much learning what these books are going to be like, but it does have a lot of charm to it. I'm just not a big fan of introductory stories, like getting to know these characters on like a fundamental level. That's not as interesting to me as seeing them in new contexts and like learning and growing as characters. But, you know, just learning that baseline where they start at just isn't as engaging to me. And just the whole story about like, oh, the Philosopher's Stone, oh, whatever. Like, it's just very low stakes.
Low stakes makes sense, though, because the characters are so young. Like, you can't throw them into fucking Voldemort casting Vada Kedavra at them yet, you know?
Yeah, no, when they're 11, imagine throwing a killing curse at an 11-year-old. God Christ. Chamber of Secrets.
I'm going exceeds expectations as well, but
Whoa.
I'm going better than Philosopher's Stone because I think the book just kept getting better. And yes, it is kind of a rehash on the Philosopher's Stone, but I think it got better. Like, it expanded on Voldemort, you know, started Voldemort's backstory, which is just amazing. The mystery as well is great.
I similarly went exceeds expectations purely based off of the fact that, like you kind of said, Patrick, I just remember reading this one and being like, oh yeah, this is better. The story in itself, I think, is a more interesting story than Philosopher's Stone, like the whole mystery of like the Chamber of Secrets, who's doing all these killings. When I was watching the movie recently, where there was the most times of me just being like, oh, that's a really weird, why are they doing that? Why are they acting this way? And obviously the answer is because the plot, you know, stuff like, oh, Arthur and Molly Weasley are stuck on platform 9 3/4. Okay, the logical progression from here is to go and fly our car to Hogwarts instead of just like staying put and waiting. Like, you're not going to get in trouble if it's not your fault that you missed the train.
I'm going to put it at acceptable.
Is that below Philosopher's Stone?
Yeah.
Justify.
Oh, we're going to go on to the third one now.
I think so. Third one is, of course, outstanding. I remember, I just remember a linear growth of how much I was liking these as I went on, like moving on to the third one from the second one. Like, the third one I finished so much quicker, even though it's a reasonably bit longer. This was where, like, it was very obvious it was starting to ramp up to, like, the wider story. Like, J.K. Rowling was obviously figuring out what the big picture was going to look like.
This book is one of the ones that I remember coming back to the most. Whenever I read the series, obviously I remember really, really enjoying this book in particular. And every time I've gone to reread them, I always go for The Prisoner of Azkaban. And for that reason, I'm putting it in outstanding because the aspects of the story are so much more detailed and complicated than the other ones were, but it doesn't get to a point where it's confusing or unnecessary. And it's just a very satisfying read.
Sirius Black, he gets built up at the start of it. He's just a criminal that escaped a Muggle prison. And it's just a background thing of like Uncle Vernon being like, oh, of course he's a fucking prisoner, but like, where's he from, man? Like, why don't you tell him? He could just be coming up the road. Like, he's just such a background character that is not important to the story at all. And then eventually he finds out, oh no, he's an escaped prisoner from fucking Azkaban. and he's one of the most wanted men in the, wizarding community. But, the Dementors are going to find him because, how the fuck do you get out of Azkaban? Like, surely the Dementors will find him. But then it turns out, oh no, he's actually going after Harry specifically because he thinks if he can kill Harry, Voldemort will come back. So, oh no, this is getting kind of serious. But oh no, it turns out he was Harry's dad's best mate and he was the best man at his wedding, and he has a photo of Sirius Black in that book from that Hagrid gave him in the first one. But it doesn't even stop there. Like, it just keeps going until it turns out, he's innocent. It's such a well-crafted story.
Goblet of Fire.
Hey guys, watching the Quidditch World Cup Grand Final. Got Crumb and me multi, Bulgaria to win, 100 galleons on them.
I think this one is even more outstanding than Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing, but they just keep getting better.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in outstanding as well. I'm not going to choose which is better out of Prisoner or Goblet. Goblet of Fire was one of the first big books that I've ever read. Like, it gets significantly bigger from the others. I was never like, oh, this is too long. This is like got a bunch of filler, unnecessary. I was like so into it the whole time, and I was sad when I finished it.
It's just a book where, like, there's nothing to criticize about this book. Every aspect of it is just awesome. The whole story of the Triwizard Tournament, awesome. All the different challenges are, like, really engaging and interesting to read. They add, like, a nice bit of action to the story.
This is the book that, like, really expanded the wizarding world. Like, straight from the start, as soon as we go to the Quidditch World Cup and seeing all the different nationalities of wizards and witches. And then we go to the Triwizard Tournament and again we see other wizarding schools. Yeah, it really expands it. But the one criticism, which you said there are none, which really isn't a criticism, it's like it had to happen. But how the fuck did Dumbledore not know that it wasn't Moody?
I don't know.
The first movie.
You're a wizard, Harry.
I'm a what?
I'm going to put this also at acceptable, another baseline. I think I'm going to...
Samesies.
Controversial opinion, this movie's going above the book. Whenever I used to watch it, it was always like an obligation. Like, oh yeah, I'm watching the Harry Potter movies, so I've got to watch the first one. I always saw it as very, just a lot worse than the rest, really. Didn't have anything special to it. But I found like when rewatching it recently, it has a lot more charm, just a lot more character than I remember it having. And it's just a very fun, digestible movie. Later on, sure, we have more mature and deep themes and plots, but they're also really depressing. This is a movie I can just watch and have a smile on my face the whole time and not get worried about being traumatized. Every sequence is just fun and magical. It really embodies that this universe is magical. As an adaptation, I think this is a really strong adaptation because it builds off of what the book was while adapting it for the medium. The casting, I do not understand how on God's green earth we got casting this amazing. It is just, everybody is so perfectly cast.
Before like the TV show comes out, which I'll probably just put before TV show in the title, it's impossible for them to do the casting justice with the movies having happened.
Literally, the cast from the films are ingrained in the public's minds. So to create the story again with different actors, it's going to be a real struggle for people to accept it. It feels undercooked in its tone. It feels like when it gets to the Chamber of Secrets and the Prisoner of Azkaban, each film has its own tone that it applies from the books into the film using the themes and the ideas and the new characters introduced. And it feels like in the first one, it's just a foot in the door and they're trying to figure it out. And, they have like a general atmosphere of Harry Potter, but it doesn't feel like it's a movie that stands on its own.
Okay, film student.
I'm going to put it in acceptable.
Hey, I think we all did.
Chamber Secret.
Diagonally.
I think I'm going to chuck this one as an outstanding. As a note to the viewers, mostly disregard the ordering of like books to movies because it's kind of apples and oranges, so it's going to be a bit wishy-washy.
To me, it feels like the movie where it's figuring out what tone each story needs. And I think it's a movie that realized that as the children get older, the way that the movies are presented will have to change. The audience is growing with the actors and the characters. And it just feels, that little bit more mature, a little bit more scary, a little bit more mysterious. And The acting takes a big step up as well.
I turned to Daniel and I said, let us hope Mr. Potter will always be around to save the day. And Daniel stepped forward and he said,
Don't worry. I will be.
So I'm going to put Chamber of Secrets in exceeds expectation.
It's just structured really well as well. And I think it has one of, in my mind, like one of the most powerful climaxes. It's just a really well told sequence of like getting into the Chamber of Secrets and whoa, the basilisk. And the basilisk is so beautiful. I don't know how they did it.
We built the first 25 feet so that we could put it on a massive ram and put it on tracks, and we could really run it at Dan.
I was concerned about building the real basilisk. I felt that a gigantic snake needed to be mostly CGI. But Nick Dudman was very persuasive that a realistic giant mechanical version of the basilisk could be very useful, for Dan's performance. So Nick built this horrific, frightening version of the basilisk. And Dan was able to key off of that creature.
Order of the Phoenix.
So I think the Order of the Phoenix book is really, really long. I was like powering through this series. I was reading the shit out of them day in, day out. I couldn't wait to get home from school so I could read more Harry Potter. And then I got to this book and I got, I don't know, a third of the way through and I stopped. I was like, this is too much. And I put it away for like 2 years before I picked it up again. I don't remember much more than that, so I'm going to put it in poor.
Yeah, I also went poor. This was a different experience for me because I listened to this one instead of reading it. And the reason I did that was because it was too damn long. It is such a big book.
What is it, like 900 words or something?
Did you say 900 words?
Pages.
And it doesn't feel justified. Like the fact that they managed to adapt it into the shortest movie, and I can't think of a single thing that I miss, says a lot. Like there's something like 5 chapters before we even get to Hogwarts. I understand like it is actually cool getting to see the Ministry and getting all that set up, but it's such a long time. And of course, Caps Lock Harry is just not fun to read. I get there's a point behind it, but it's just taken a bit too far.
Time for my controversial opinion. But I'm putting it bottom of exceeds expectation.
Ooh, I'm getting heartburn trying to digest that. Whoa.
Talking about the day-to-day life, no other book does it better. People complain about, it takes them too long to get to Hogwarts, but like I love seeing all the stuff at Grimmauld Place, even though it's like all mundane stuff. I just got to spend so much time with the characters. The thing the movie does so much better is Sirius. I get why he's depressed in the book, but also like, he's out of Azkaban. Like, what the fuck are you going on about? I get that he's in his childhood home that he doesn't like, but he's also out of Azkaban and not living in a cave. And also is seeing like all his friends a lot of the time. Yes, he's not going out and Sirius was just such a better character in the movie.
Prisoner of Azkaban movie. Do we even need to talk about this one? It's just top of outstanding, full stop.
This is the problem with doing on the same list is like, how do you rank between books and movies? I'm going to top outstanding. I know what's going above it.
I don't want to go like rambling on about this movie because I really like it. I'd rather not ramble because it'll get boring, but I think it is very, very well made. I think the score and the sound design is so sexy. And I think the acting is up an insane level from the Chamber of Secrets. The whole Sirius Black plotline is so satisfying when it comes to a close. Even just throughout the journey, not even the destination, the whole journey of the Sirius Black plot is really, really, really interesting. He really makes you feel fear for the whole movie, just knowing that he's just out there somewhere. And he's probably after Harry. I think the way that it's shot is so nice. It's also just really enjoyable. And there's just so many moments that I like. And so I put it at the top of outstanding.
This is just a case where this goes above the book. I think I just prefer the format of a movie over a book. One thing that I noticed when watching this movie, which I'm surprised I've never really thought about before, is the fact that it has 2 climaxes. And yet both of them work perfectly. And it's like it doesn't feel weirdly paced at all. If like most movies did something like that, it would just feel really weird and abrupt. Like, we're going back and just doing the whole thing again. But it works here, and somehow it feels like an escalation. The mystery is just really well told, which, I mean, Patrick kind of touched on that in the book. Acting, again, perfect. Gary Oldman did a great job at making Sirius both really scary and just really lovely. Even though I will say it maybe is a bit forced, the sequence in the Shrieking Shack, like the sheer contrast of at the beginning where he's like rambling like a maniac, and then at the end he's kind of more calm and chill spoken, which obviously was done to make you like, oh no, he's evil, he's gonna kill Harry, ah. But like if he rocked up and he was just a chill dude, be like, oh well, he's actually a chill dude. This is a bit more of a case than Chamber of the Secrets, where they're starting to cut out stuff that I like. But I can understand it still at this point, because stuff like the Marauders, which I like the Marauders, it's cool. I like learning about Harry's dad and his chums and whatever. But, you know, the whole revelation that like, oh, all of them were animaguses and they'd all go out to just be with their buddy Remus when he was in a crazy wolf mode. You know, missing stuff like that. I miss it, but at the same time, this is such a perfectly paced movie that if they added stuff like that, random exposition dumps, it just isn't going to work.
I'm going to touch on the score for this one, because this is John Williams' last Harry Potter movie, which is so annoying because he just did such a good job. And like this one especially, like A Window to the Past, and the way it slowly progresses throughout the movie, like it starts off really quiet, just one instrument as he looks at a photo of his parents. And like but then every time there's a window to the past, you hear a window to the past, and it just gets better and better every time. I just wish he did the later movies.
He manages to create different themes for each film that fit so well while merging with the dun 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 dun.
I mean, just every movie, at least one very iconic theme for every movie he's like ever done. But also he doesn't like take over from the film when he does it. Like in certain scenes, like in the arrival at Hogwarts in Philosopher's Stone, he did obviously take over that scene, but it was merited.
John will always take an early and longer version of the cut to work on, and he'll just record to the longer version. I remember one occasion we saw the cue played back of this long version of the arrival at Hogwarts, and Chris just turned to me and said, you've got to go and put that back to that long version, because we'd shortened it because we thought it was too slow. But once we saw it with the music, it was brilliant.
Are we on to Half-Blood Prince book?
Yeah.
I'm going to chuck it in, I think, exceeds expectations. Take my book ranking with a grain of salt. In like 6 months, because I'm planning to reread the book soon, I'll put a comment and Patrick pin my comment and I'll update my book order. But this is where I think it goes.
It goes in outstanding top.
It's a great book. It goes in outstanding. I think this book has an amazing build-up. Some films, they'll hint at things going to happen and then boom, suddenly you're in the finale and it's happening right in front of you and you're like, wow, how do we get here? In Half-Blood Prince, I feel like it builds up to it so well. So when you get there and like you sit in that final battle for so long, it just feels incredibly satisfying.
This is my favorite book of all time. Voldemort's past is just like the best bit of the book. Harry and Ginny are just such a good pairing. And Ginny's actually a character in this book, believe it or not.
No way, man. That's crazy.
Voldemort's past, Quidditch. It's like the perfect length. Like, I understand Order of the Phoenix is too long, but I just love day-to-day life at Hogwarts. What else? There's just like not much to say about the books, just that they're so good. Goblet of Fire.
Harry, you put your name in the Goblet of Fire.
Poor.
Wow.
This movie absolutely shits on the source material. The biggest thing, honestly, to me, is the Quidditch World Cup. Why do you film every millisecond of the Quidditch World Cup, except for the start of the game? The snitch gets released, and then we cut. And they're like, oh my god, that game was so good. That was amazing. And we didn't see a second of it.
I am probably going to be in the minority here, but the Goblet of Fire film goes to the top of outstanding. Hear me out.
I'm not going to.
I don't think that it is a better film. I don't think it's better made. I don't think the story is as strong or the characters, but this is purely based on enjoyment. I enjoy the Goblet of Fire much more than I enjoy The Prisoner of Azkaban. The way that it's shot and edited and just the pacing, it just hits for me in every way. I don't know why, and I really enjoy it.
I used to be a lot like Tate, where I would rank this movie really high because fundamentally it's a movie that I enjoy a lot. And it still is a movie that I enjoy a lot, and I'm not going to give it a shit ranking. But I have kind of learned to see more of the problems with it. I think it's below Chamber of Secrets. It's probably going to top exceed expectations. I don't know. I enjoy this movie a lot. The whole story at the Triwizard Tournament I think is really fun. It's really interesting. The main thing that I kind of noticed while watching this movie that pulled it down for me was we're missing out on day in the life at Hogwarts at all. Like in the previous movie, Prisoner of Azkaban, there's less of it. And then here there's even less of it. There's practically nothing. The entire movie is focused entirely on the Triwizard Tournament and everything else suffers. Oh, so they all have long hair for some reason and it's like, weird. It's like an entire year passes and they just don't get a haircut.
I'm actually so confused on that. Did all the actors just grow out their hair, or was that an intentional decision?
It would have been a conscious choice.
But it's such a weird one.
Because actors don't just grow out their hair. Like, all of aspects of their appearance are measured. You don't just go, just have whatever hair you want. That's not how it works. So it was measured. I don't know why they did it. It was probably because of the times. It's like the haircut that's in. It's like maybe we can relate to more people. People will see it. Who knows?
See, this is our film student.
This is why you're here. Not because we like you.
Harry Potter tier list featuring a real film student.
You should talk more about score, Pat, since you're a musician.
I did that with Prisoner of Azkaban because that's the only one I know about. Joel, talk about the software development.
Yeah, all that programming going on. Or the Phoenix movie.
Sorry, Professor. I must not tell lies.
I don't know where to put this.
Outstanding.
Patrick's going to kill me, but I think it's going below Goblet of Fire.
What?
Or maybe it's equal. I think it's tight. It in Goblet of Fire. No, I'm going to put it above. It'll go above. Don't worry, Patrick. It's topping exceeds expectations.
This movie is so good. It's one of the best movies, and it has the worst book. I'm going to say it's a better adaptation than Prisoner of Azkaban. It's not a better movie, but as an adaptation, they just did everything right. Like, they took all that Umbridge stuff that just dragged on in the book and just turned it into a montage. They changed Sirius's character so much, and it's so much better having him happy. That bit is just so depressing in the book, which was probably intentional, but I preferred this.
I think this movie's great also. The battle at the end between Dumbledore and Voldemort is probably the best one fight in the whole series. I want to put it in outstanding, but below Azkaban and Goblet.
Order of the Phoenix is a movie.
What? How long have you been sitting on this information?
This is such a phenomenal movie, and it's such an accomplishment because it's not just a great movie. It's a great adaptation of, in my opinion, a poor book. It takes everything that's good, turns it up to 11, takes everything that's bad, and repurposes it into a good package. Stuff like Caps Lock Harry. I think they did Caps Lock Harry well in this movie. Yes, he's angry, but it feels a lot more human and much less exaggerated.
It feels like the first movie where you're like, oh, being Harry isn't someone that you actually want to be. Yeah. Like in the first movies, you're like, he's like the popular one. He's like the hero. He has all these crazy adventures. It's so much fun. In this one, you're like, wow, a lot of actually really fucked up shit has happened to him. And it's actually really, really dark when you look at it. If you write it down on paper, you're like, wow, that's really grim. And that is really coming out in his personality as well as throughout the way the film's presented.
I really liked this book. When I listened to it, I was like, oh, this is a good book. I think it's going above Prisoner of Azkaban book, below Goblet of Fire book. It's going up in outstanding. It just slaps.
It's going above Prisoner of Azkaban movie.
I'm going to put it in exceeds expectations.
I just remember listening to this book and it was just like everything great about the rest of the books, but all in one. It was like this great package. Going into it, I was expecting a book similar to Lord of the Rings. Look, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, but I don't enjoy reading the Lord of the Rings books because they're very slow, which I thought based off of the movies, this was going to be. But no, more on that later. It's just a really well-paced book.
They'd wrapped a lot of stuff up in Order of the Phoenix and Half-Blood Prince. And J.K. Rowling managed to bring in like so much new stuff. The Deathly Hallows got introduced. Dumbledore's backstory got introduced. She managed to add in so much stuff without it feel like she's trying to pull shit out of her ass to like add stakes and like conflict to this story. It was done so well.
The Half-Blood Prince movie?
Shoelace.
As of now, Abe's converted me to liking this movie.
He somehow did to me too, and I hate this movie.
Yeah. So it's actually going bottom of exceeds expectations.
Yeah, so this is the one where the school is under tight security. I like the whole, it's sort of like, shit's getting real now. Like, gotta lock down, kind of really start to think about who's going to play next, what's going to happen. The interpersonal reaction between Ginny and Hermione and the boys and all that is like, I think that's just a good sort of side plot to sort of bring it all together.
How did he do that?
He didn't really. He just said he liked it. I watched it shortly after we filmed that, and I was like, actually, this is enjoyable. I don't know if it's just because it's based off my favorite book.
Dear David Yates, just because you're trying to convey a dark tone doesn't mean you need to make a movie so dark I literally can't see what's happening. For the love of God, it's one of my biggest pet peeves in movies, and that's, I think, the main reason why I've always hated the shit out of this movie. But like this recent time watching it, you know, I tried to put that out of my mind, and there was actually a lot there that I liked. I mean, at the moment, this is only topping acceptable. It's below Chamber of Secrets movie and above Philosopher's Stone movie. But it could be so much higher. There's just so many baffling decisions that I don't understand at all. Like, there's good in here. It's not like it was a complete lost cause. There's a lot of great stuff. A lot of confounding decisions, like the burning of the burrow doesn't add anything. In my opinion, it actually subtracts from it. Because in a movie where screen time is so precious, you're wasting this time on this sequence that has no consequence, but then you're taking away from the point of this book, which was Tom Riddle's backstory. There's so many sequences they could have incorporated that they just didn't.
Also, I'm going to say another baffling decision was that random muggle girl at the start. And Voldemort's now out in the open. They're like, the Death Eaters are terrorizing everywhere. Harry, what are you doing? Though Voldemort doesn't attack, like, Voldemort cares about Harry's education. He waits to the end of the school year to attack, but you know.
Ginny is another thing. Obviously, they butchered the shit out of Ginny. There's a small handful of scenes in this movie where she's an actual character and contributes to the scene.
Shut it!
But then, on the other side of things, the actual sequence where Dumbledore ultimately dies, that's really well done. The escalation of, oh, look, it's Draco. Oh, no, Draco's going to kill me. Oh, and then like it's like Snape, and we're like, oh, cool, Snape's going to save the day. And then Snape does not save the day. And it's messed up.
I think the Ginny and Harry relationship doesn't just fail in the script, it also fails with the actors. I don't think they have any chemistry with each other. When they're speaking, you don't feel like they actually even like each other. It feels so forced and unnatural. It's hard to avoid that when you've had Ginny be the same actor for the whole series. You can't exactly just replace her like that to get someone who has better chemistry. I think the film has some great moments, definitely. Some ones that stick out to me is the fight with Draco in the bathroom. It kind of feels like a really good metaphor for the entire film for me. You know, these guys who are fighting, but they're in a school bathroom. All of their fights, all the violence, it's contained to this, air quotes, safe space, right? And Harry uses this spell that he doesn't know what it does. And it wrecks Draco, like almost kills him. He's bleeding out everywhere. And it kind of really emphasizes that, like, when you're outside of this school setting, it's not going to be whimsical and fun. It's actually a really dangerous place. It kind of makes you feel like what's coming in the next few movies is a real threat, and it makes you genuinely fear the villains. But other than that, there's a lot of really dull, crawling moments. I mean, there's so much content in the books that you could have pulled from to make a more interesting film, and you just didn't do that. So I'm going to put it in unacceptable condition.
Unacceptable condition!
Definitely.
Morning.
This is going to be hard to place.
This is where it's going to change a lot from my previous list. This is bottoming poor. I thought I used to like it, but then I recently rewatched it and it was just boring. Nothing happened, but I do still think it was a good decision to split Deathly Hallows into two parts. Like, this movie very much walked so that part two could run. There's just not the content there in the first half to make this a full rounded, interesting movie. There's just a lot of time spent walking around, camping, inconsequential things happening. There wasn't anything outright bad. There just wasn't anything especially good.
I'm topping acceptable because it's not just walking around. There's, you know, there's the fight with Nagini. There's the escape from the Ministry, which is such an action-packed scene. There's Bill and Fleur's wedding, which also has them. And there is a lot of action in this movie that people just overlook.
Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Of course it's happening inside your head, Harry. Why should that mean that it's not real?
Well, outstanding, you know.
Yeah, no, this brings it home. It's gonna bottom outstanding.
I think it's an amazing movie as well. I'm putting it in outstanding below Goblet, Prisoner, and Order.
It's kind of great for all the reasons that the book is great. It has like everything I like about Deathly Hallows. It's a fantastic conclusion. It has a lot of action, which is very meaningful action. It just feels very impactful, I suppose, and it just ties the series up in a wonderful way. It answers all the questions, gives us some revelations. It changes how we see everything. You know, as I said before, like Snape turning out to be a mad lad, and even Harry being a Horcrux. That's not as big a deal in terms of like changing how you see things, but it's still a pretty big thing. And like Dumbledore's whole plan being for Harry to die in the end as well. I think that's a huge revelation.
Well, I'm going to touch on the action. The Battle of Hogwarts. It's so intense and so much is going on, but you can see what's going on. It's not, apart from the color grading, it's still fucked, but like it's shot really well.
I don't feel like I have the authority to rank this because I haven't read it or obviously seen it, but I'm just going to put it in troll because I think it's, from what I can tell, from the limited amount of information I have, I know for a fact I would not enjoy this book.
I'm going to put it in troll as well. Look, when I read it, it was enjoyable, but it's not canon. It's sold to us as if it is a canon story, and I think J.K. Rowling says it's canon, but there's enough wrong with it that it's not. It just can't be canon. Like the trolley witch going crazy on top of the Hogwarts Express. It just reeks of fan fiction.
I'll actually add one thing, which this is kind of a thing for Fantastic Beasts as well, is I think Harry Potter should just stay Harry Potter, like that original story. It's such a well-told narrative that I think it's best to just leave it in peace.
Like if you don't include canon, like the problem of canon, which I don't have because I don't really care about canon, I put it in the bottom of poor, which is still below everything, but it's not dreadful or troll because I did have a good time.
Fantastic Beasts. I'm going to bottom poor. It's below every other thing in the Harry Potter franchise except Cursed Child, but that doesn't mean I dislike it. Like, even forgive the naming, poor, I still like this. This is fine. This is a good, enjoyable movie.
I'm going to put it in troll. Yeah, I fucking hate these movies.
I hate the next two. Don't get me wrong. The next two are going in troll, but the first one is all right.
The first one, I wanted to end it all watching it. I hate the setting. I hate the costumes.
This is what Abe was like last time.
I hate the cast. I am so disinterested in what this movie has to say, and I will never, ever watch it again. You know what this film is to me? It's like
one eternity later.
Jesus Christ, Tate, mate. Oh my God. I know you don't like it, but like you could have just said, I don't like it. We get it. And I'm ready just to power through. The rest of these are going in troll. Like there's nothing more for me to discuss. These next two movies are just shit. I haven't even seen all the Secrets of Dumbledore. I watched the first half hour and it was enough for me to know that it was going to be shit.
Double troll for me too.
My name is Joel Tonkins and I officially approve this tier list. And then let's do some fireworks going off and then bring in like, I don't know, Yoda just jumping around or some shit, and then Voldemort laughing in the upper left corner, and then I don't know, the TARDIS can materialize but then dematerialize before it finishes materializing, and then bring in Abe's face.
Hi. Oh, mate.
Don't do anything special with it. Just put Abe's face on the screen somewhere.
Hold it for 5 seconds.
Yeah, and then
make a teardrop come out of his eye.
And then make like a really loud fart sound, like that reverberated fart, and then just end the video. That was back in year 7 before I had any friends. Imagine not having a 2 terabyte hard drive specifically for recordings. Scoff.
I do have one actually, not for recordings though.
Is that for your homework?
It's for films.
Yep.
Oh my God. It is, for lack of a better word, sexy. Like you said, it gets them more wet when I'm trying to get the books out of my really tight box.
I could hear you ramble all day, Tate.
Oh, that's cute of you, Joel. Do you love butts?
But
So if I've gone quiet, I'm just helping a friend with an assignment real quick. Better a prisoner than a prison.
Yeah, I got something burning on my mouth.
See, I look into your eyes, Tate, and I just know. I see into your soul.
It's like eating a bowl of shit with piss mixed in with it and vomit and drinking it over and over again until it...
My ears are not a toilet, all right? Ow, I just hurt my hand. I actually really hurt my hand. That hurt.